So this is the Nintendo Switch, the newest mainline console from Nintendo, and while it's not something I'd usually cover, the holidays are coming up, so a lot of people are going to be wanting to know whether or not they should pick one up. Therefore, in today's video, I want to find out whether or not the original Nintendo Switch is something you should consider picking up in 2022. Okay, so first of all, when you pick one of these things up, what do you get in the box? In the box, we obviously get the Nintendo Switch, a set of JoyCons, a controller adapter which I personally no longer own, and a docking system with the appropriate cables. I personally got mine used, so I didn't get a box, but if you buy new or from a good used distributor, you'll get everything you need to get it set up. The Nintendo Switch will also come with some onboard storage, however, you also do get the option to expand it with a micro SD card. Me personally, I have a 32GB card in mine, and this gives me a nice, cheap way to store those bigger games, which is nice. You can alternatively use physical games. If you weren't aware, the Nintendo Switch does actually still use cartridges for game media, and while on the surface that might not seem as modern as discs, let alone digital, I've had very few issues with it, and if it means the Nintendo Switch can be a true handheld console, I'm personally fine with that. As for the box, well, that's pretty much it. But yeah, as I said, everything you need to get started. Following on, let's talk about the controllers. A quick word on the Pro controller. This is probably my favorite controller out of, well, any of them. If you pick up a Switch and you decide that you want an upgrade in terms of controllers, I cannot recommend the Pro controller enough. However, the Switch typically doesn't come with one, instead coming with the almost iconic at this point, JoyCons. These little detachable controllers come with a classic ABXY configuration, or a D-pad depending on which one you're holding, an analog stick, a plus or a minus, ZL and ZR buttons. One of the great things about this is that because they are mirrored, two people can use these things without having to buy a single new Joy-Con, which is very cool. There are also these little bumpers inside the Joy-Cons, which are hidden when they click in place, and while this can be a little bit cramped, it is a really cool addition nonetheless. In terms of build, they are made of plastic, and while they don't have the strongest feel in terms of construction, this does mean they're not too heavy, and I've personally never had an issue with them cracking or anything like that, which is nice. They can also be used to read amiibos. Personally, I only have the bow one from Animal Crossing, and I'm sorry, there is literally no way I am opening up my Animal Crossing save to shoot B-roll for this video. It's been over a year. I am terrified of what I'm gonna find. So yeah, amiibos. Okay, so a quick word on the Joy-Cons. A lot of people have reported something known as Joy-Con drift. I've personally had this, and it is incredibly frustrating. This might mean a character in a game might drift in terms of movement slightly, and while I have personally experienced this before, ever since I replaced the dodgy Joy-Con, which came with my used Switch, and avoided doing things like leaving my Switch face down, this stopped it for both me and anyone else I personally know who had Joy-Con drift. Other things you can do to help stop this is to make sure your Joy-Cons are correctly calibrated and clean. It sounds simple, and while I've heard conflicting reports, in terms of personal experience, this is what mine's been like. Up next, we have the built-in screen. It's a 6.2-inch 720p LCD panel, and honestly, on paper at least, this does seem kind of outdated for 2022. Now, while there is a bigger, updated OLED Switch out now, the original, aka the one I've got, has got that smaller LCD panel. That said, it will get the job done for a handheld situation. I have noticed on bright days it can be pretty difficult to see with the glare being pretty noticeable. However, in most cases, it is manageable. But overall, the screen definitely shows this thing's age. Following on, we have the game selection. If you want to play AAA games like the new Call of Duty or anything too serious, the Nintendo Switch is not your console. I've tried playing some FPSs on here, but the only one I really enjoyed was Borderlands 2 because it's not too serious. That said though, in terms of casual games, there has been a rip in this sweater this whole time. Let's pretend we didn't see it. In terms of casual games available on the Switch, you're kind of spoiled for choice. Animal Crossing, endless Mario games, Pokemon. By the way, if you haven't played Pokemon Legends Arceus, play it. Seriously, I loved that game. It's not just big titles either. I also played Night in the Woods on the Switch. I don't know, I'm a pretty big fan of Midwest emo, if you couldn't tell from the flannel shirt. So that game kind of spoke to me. Overall, as I said, this thing is a casual game monster. Just don't buy this thing expecting to play the new Call of Duty. Okay, so getting into the gaming experience. First of all, let's talk about what it's like using this console handheld. Well, again, the screen is kind of showing the age of this thing. In practice, as soon as I start playing some games, this feeling melts away almost instantly. I love the handheld gaming experience on this thing. Nothing feels too cramped, and the fact that I can play anywhere is awesome. I'll always chuck the Switch in my bag whenever I'm traveling, say I'm going on holiday or just a weekend trip where I know I'm gonna have lots of downtime, as it is a great way to pass some time. I also love the fact that I only have to bring one charger, as the Joy-Cons are actually charged by the Switch itself, and seeing as it is USB-C and works with my MacBook Pro charger, I can pack less while still bringing everything. There is also a 3.5mm audio jack on the Switch, so you can plug in your favorite pair of wired headphones for some on-the-go audio, or in my case, also docked audio because I play on this monitor. Unfortunately, Bluetooth is not an option with headphones on the Switch, which is a shame. However, in the case of the Switch, I would personally rather only have wired headphones rather than only wireless. There is also some built-in speakers on this thing with a volume rocker next to the power button on the top, and while you're certainly not going to be getting the best audio quality by any means, if you just want some quick audio that will sound okay, you can definitely get away with using these speakers. In terms of on-the-go battery life, it will depend on how new or old your Switch is. Mine's getting on a bit, so I do need to plug mine in every 4 hours or so when I'm using it, which can get a little bit inconvenient, especially if I'm on the move. However, I rarely game, especially in portable mode, for more than 4 hours at a time, so it's not really a big issue for me personally. One portable downside, however, is the kickstand. You may notice in the B-roll that mine personally is missing, and that's because blatantly it's shit. It's pretty flimsy, mine's gone now, and I have no idea where it is. And if I were to use my Switch like you would in the ads, yeah, I wouldn't use the kickstand anyway. I'd probably just lean it against something. Yeah, the kickstand, not great. Another little downside I've noticed that in some of the newer games, especially the new Pokemon game, there can occasionally be a few performance issues. But in most of the games I've tried, it does have to say this is pretty rare. Overall, the handheld gaming experience on the Switch is pretty excellent. It's excellent for on-the-go gaming, and in my opinion, any cons here are massively outweighed by the pros. Moving on to the docked experience, this, in my opinion, is where the Switch starts feeling like a true gaming console. As I said, I am a big fan of using the Pro controller here. I hook this thing up to my monitor using my charging dock and an HDMI cable, and I'm off. You can, of course, slide the Joy-Cons off and use those, but personally, as I said, I prefer the Pro controller. Being able to just simply slot my Switch into place and not having to plug anything in is a seriously awesome experience, and it makes going from handheld to docked mode a feature rather than a chore. So, if you want to play some games on the go as you would at home, the Switch is an excellent, fluid choice for this. In terms of performance, games are at 1080p here once docked, and I have also noticed the performance is better because the GPU doesn't have to draw power from the battery, and while I'm at home or if I'm going away for a few weeks and I know I want to use my Switch a bit, chances are I'm bringing the dock because this thing is awesome. In my opinion, the dock is what makes the Switch truly unique, and it's the reason why I personally wouldn't buy a Switch Lite. While they are awesome for just playing the Nintendo games, for me, using the Switch docked is such an integral part of the experience. If my Switch broke tomorrow, honestly, I think I'd probably just buy another used Switch. So yeah, in my opinion, the dock is awesome. One thing I would have liked is an extra port, so maybe a USB-C to USB-C. Also, the build quality could be better. That said though, I talk about the build quality, I've personally never had any issues with it breaking, and I am not the most coordinated, so yeah, take that how you will. But in general, the dock's cool. Okay, so to wrap this video up, while there have been a few performance issues on newer games, as well as the fact that the build quality could be a little bit higher, the Nintendo Switch is still a fantastic console. This original model being cheaper than ever, so if you want a fun, casual console to relax and play some games on, and aren't too fussed about playing the new Call of Duty, then chances are you will have a lot of fun with this console. I think honestly that has just been a theme throughout. It's a console for fun, and fun it certainly is. Alright guys, so that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Let me know, by the way, what do you think of the Switch? Do you have one? Are you planning to get one? Are you considering something else, like a Steam Deck? Feel free to let me know in the comments. I always enjoy reading those. As for now though, as always, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you want to see more content like this, and smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.